Hey everybody, it's Dowden, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the lesser known compression you might not be using, and it could be really beneficial to you. It's not as popular of a compression, but it is really useful and it's often overlooked. The way that it works is similar and opposite of a downwards compressor, which is usually what people are talking about when they use compression. A common downwards compressor takes the signal, squishes it down by reducing the higher volumes, and then you're able to turn the whole sound back up, while an upwards compressor works in the opposite by taking the sounds that are a little bit quieter below a threshold and then boosting those up in volume so that it's closer to the peak sounds at the top. This reduces dynamic range. It also brings some of the quieter nuances of the sounds up in volume and can make things like vocals or drums feel a bit fuller. You can grab some of the little nuances and sounds that you don't necessarily hear, and it brings those up, and it can help drums sound a bit grittier. It can help vocals sound a bit more enunciated, maybe grab some breaths and some whispers in the vocal, etc. Let's go ahead and dive into it. So for this example, I'm taking a drum loop from one of my own tracks. Like I mentioned, upwards compression is good for grabbing some of the quieter sounds in a mix, some of the background noise, the ambience, little things that you don't hear so much in the front of the mix. And by using this upwards compression, we're going to be taking sounds that are quieter in the mix or in a sample or a loop, and we're going to grab them and bring them forward. This can be beneficial for drum loops when you want to make them feel a little bit fuller, have a little bit less dynamic range, and especially when you have a lot of percussion going on, it can help to pull up some of the quieter parts and push them further into the mix so you can hear it just a little bit better. It really fills up the spectrum. So with that being said, let's take a listen to the loop before the upwards compression. So there's quite a lot going on, a lot of little sounds that are kind of hard to really hear where they're coming from, and there's some good sounds that you can really tell, like the hat and the clap, that are really prominent. But I want this to feel a little bit more glued together. I want those lower sounds to be a little bit more present. I'm going to use an upwards compression technique. Unfortunately, there's no upwards compressor that comes stock with Ableton, so we have to actually use the Mulitband Dynamics and use the upwards function that it has. I'll drag that onto my group here, and I'm going to turn off the low and the high bands. And now what we're doing is controlling the entire frequency spectrum with this Mulitband Dynamics. If you're not familiar with the Mulitband Dynamics, just imagine your compressor dealing with a low, medium, and high. But we've taken out the low and the high, so really it's just a compressor, and the visual is that it's turned sideways. To use upwards compression, we're going to grab the left side of the compressor, and we're going to turn the ratio blue like this. We're increasing the ratio here. Anything that meets this threshold is going to be turned up by the amount in the ratio. So we have this all the way down to the bottom. Once we start playing the loop, I'll start dragging it from the left to the right, and you'll start to see there'll be some, instead of gain reduction like a usual compressor by reducing the peaks, it's going to actually push the quieter parts louder. So let's go ahead and bring this up as we're playing the loop. Okay, so we're getting between 1 to 4 dB of additional gain. So that's taking the quieter parts of the sound and it's pushing them forward. It's making them louder. And let's take a listen with the compressor off and on. It's pretty subtle, but let's take a listen to what we're really affecting here the most. So when we solo this shaker and turn off and on the dynamics, upwards compression, you can hear a difference. With the upwards compression on, you hear a lot more of that shaker. You hear it feeling fuller, and you hear the little quieter parts that you weren't able to hear so much before. Instead of pushing the entire volume up and just reducing the peaks, we are just keeping the same volume, but bringing up those quieter parts to make it sound fuller. We can listen on this one as well. We hear those little tick and tat noises just a bit clearer when the Mulitband Dynamics is on with using that upwards compression. We'll do one more example, and we'll do this shaker groove here, percussive-y type loop. Wow, we're grabbing a lot of information there. So we're grabbing a lot of that room ambience, a little bit of the reverb that comes organically with recording these samples and using these samples, some of the artifacts as well. And that can actually make your loop sound a little bit more interesting and exciting to somebody that wants it to sound a bit more organic. Let's listen one more time now that we know what we're really listening for to that loop with the upwards compression off and on. Again, it's pretty subtle, but it is bringing those levels up and it does sound a little bit fuller. We could even push it a little bit harder, but if we go too high, we're going to start to grab some of the more powerful sounds and it's going to start to boost those as well. Dialing in just a little bit of this can help make it feel a bit fuller and warmer without totally destroying the dynamics of the sound. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, or if you just want to support, give me a thumbs up. Also, check the description for some free checklists, free sample packs, and some other goodies as well.